Greetings, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today we are going to talk about Napoleon Dynamite. Okay, to start off this video, I need you to think with me for a second about your favorite movie. Think about the plot, think about the protagonist, think about his story and the struggles he goes through, and the ending victory, and all that. And if your movie doesn't have one of those kinds of stories, then that's fine. Chances are there's a variation of it, whatever. You just thought about the hero's journey. You've probably heard of this before, you've probably learned about it in school, but the hero's journey is a commonly used archetype or story template that many works of literature, film, and even some songs follow. And just to quickly paraphrase, here's the hero's journey. Protagonist is average. Protagonist is called on an adventure. Protagonist meets mentor. Protagonist faces fear and challenges. Protagonist is at an all-time low. Protagonist begins to triumph. Protagonist learns lessons amidst his journey. And protagonist is now a hero. Now, this storyline can be slightly altered and used in different ways, particularly now to fit into modern culture and, more human plot lines rather than superhero plot lines. But nonetheless, it's the hero's journey. Now let's look at a movie that follows the hero's journey. Nacho Libre. How many of you have seen it? I'm about to give some spoilers, but I don't really think that matters, because if you haven't seen Nacho Libre, then come on. And if you haven't and you don't plan on watching it, you're not really missing anything. It is a great movie, but it's fine. Ignacio. Ignacio is an average cook at the monastery. Ignacio wants to become a wrestler and is pushed to pursue that by his mistreatment at the monastery. Ignacio meets his wrestling partner, not really his mentor, but still a step nonetheless. Ignacio keeps losing but gets money, so little struggle. Ignacio blows it with the nun. Ignacio has to fight his way up to fighting Ramses. Ignacio finally fights Ramses and wins. Ignacio learns that he can wrestle and still serve the Lord and the orphans. Ignacio becomes a hero. That is basically the hero's journey. What a wholesome movie. So in light of this, raise your hand if you've ever put Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite in the same category. Okay, well, they're not the same at all. On my recent ponderings, I started to wonder why I even like the movie Napoleon Dynamite, and it's not really because the plot is exciting. It's not because there's important life lessons in there, really. It's not because the characters have a ton of development or anything like that. In fact, the movie doesn't really have any of that at all. So why do I like it? Why do we like it? And why was it a huge box office movie? And why is it such an iconic movie in the United States? I have come to the conclusion that the reason we love this movie so much is because of a little phenomenon that I have coined myself because I'm just so smart, called the absurdity of being average. So a couple of years ago, my husband told me one of the most profound statements I have ever heard. He said that his uncle said, "You know why Napoleon Dynamite is such a relatable movie? Because every character is a loser in their own way." Loser. So I know that that's probably a simple concept that you've heard before. It is a relatable movie, but I really think it's just so interesting because it is still such a good movie, even though there are average characters living in average places with an extremely anticlimactic plot. I guess you can kind of argue that there is a hero's journey in Napoleon Dynamite, but it's almost like too mundane and kind of like obscure to label plot points with the hero's journey. I think the reason why this movie sticks with us so much is that we see this averageness as being absurd, because it's supposed to be like a movie. Like, we're so used to the hero's journey, so it's supposed to be like this knock your socks off movie, and it's just not. So we laugh at it. Everything about it seems to be hilarious, and it is. There are really well written jokes in it, but It seems that the most common joke is just the perfect portrayal of different characters and stereotypes that you know and have seen so clearly from somewhere in your own average life. That's what makes us laugh. A lot of us, upon our first viewing of this movie, find it absurd. To give you examples, let's go through the characters. Napoleon. Without a doubt, I know I have gone to high school with someone like Napoleon, like from the outfit, from the facial expressions, to the interests. He thinks he's super skilled, but he's not. He doesn't really have like a good attitude either. Like, yeah, he's kind of like the outcast or whatever, but I think he might kind of bring it on himself. Like, he kind of has a bad attitude. He's just your stereotypical weird kid, but the way they portray it is so mundane still. Like, they didn't make him like this crazy weird kid character. He's just average. And like Uncle Rico, I think his character is like genius, because I think all of us can think of someone who kind of like lives in the past a little bit too much and kind of like embellishes their past stories and their glory days. And he's selling like Tupperware and breast enhancement pills, and like I can't name someone specific, but like, and I'm sure like you might not be able to either, but you know somebody, like you've seen this before. And they just do such a good job of portraying characters that like we've all come in contact with. And like even the popular kids like Summer, Wheatley, and Dawn, yeah, they're the stereotypical popular kids, but they're not likable. They're not likable characters at all. Like they still have like the mannerisms and the, you know, personality of like a sandwich. Like they're just not none of these characters are super interesting. I mean, I guess like Napoleon's interesting because he has interesting interests, but he's still boring. So we know these characters like the back of our hands before we even get to know them in the film, and it's so hilarious and it's so real and relatable because it's so average. And so it's kind of like a mirror of ourselves. Even the setting is average. Like Preston, Idaho, how much more mediocre or mundane can you get than Preston, Idaho? I just find it so interesting that although the movie exaggerates these character stereotypes so we can easily recognize them, they're still not like super exciting or outlandish, and the plot is not exciting at all, and there's not even a ton of character development. I would argue that the most character development is Deb, because she seems to gain a lot of confidence, or more than she had. But, and I mean, I guess Napoleon has character development, but like, does he? Not really. Now I know you might be able to argue against me and come up with a really good analysis of this movie and the characters' journey and, you know, related to the hero's journey. I get that. But just when you watch it the first time especially, you're like, what's the point? And that's the point. It's so average. Yeah, so I just think it's really cool. They're so average, but their personality and their quirks and where they fit in and like the status quo is so like plainly portrayed that we can be like, I know them, I went to school with them, I work with that person, you know, whatever. You get what I'm saying. So Napoleon Dynamite celebrates the average, and it shows us like how absurd we can be in our own interactions and personality traits and things like that. And I think that's why it's a great movie. And that's all I have to say about it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around for the video. And probably wasn't that interesting, but it's just been on my mind and I had to talk about it. So thank you very much. Have a great day.